if you can move in, we have lots of people coming in, please slide into the middle, make sure all seats are occupied, it'd be helpful. Thank you very much. please, if you see an open seat next to you, please slide down. We do have a lot of people still trying to come in. We'd love to make sure everyone has an opportunity to sit and hear the keynote. So if you can slide down and make a little room, that would be great. Thank you. WE18 President of the Society of Women Engineers, Society Wilson.
Good morning. Wow, what a crowd. I'm glad to see all of you here this morning. On behalf of the Society of Women Engineers Board of Directors, I welcome all of you to Minneapolis, Minnesota, and WE18. I've said this several times already this morning, the world's largest career fair and conference for women in technology and engineering in the world. Isn't that Okay. I got off script a little bit, sorry. I'm glad you could join us this morning, and I am thrilled to welcome you to our opening keynote and breakfast, which means there's coffee. I needed some this morning. You might tell I had a little bit. And if the coffee isn't enough to open your eyes, we certainly have our keynote speaker, Cindy Kent, and she is sure to get you energized. Cindy will join us in just a few minutes, but before she does, I would like to recognize some key groups of people that have helped make this morning and WE18 possible. I would like to start by acknowledging the unwavering dedication and hard work of all of the SWE volunteer leaders, beginning with our board. So would the FY19 Board of Directors please stand and be recognized? SWE's Conference Advisory Board, which is chaired by Sierra Murtis, has the responsibility to define the objectives for SWE's conference and then ensure that each event properly supports the Society's mission and values. Thank you for your thoughtful and dedicated efforts that have led to this wonderful conference. Would all of the Conference Advisory Board members please stand and be recognized? WE18 kicked off last night with fun, games, and networking at our This morning, we're enjoying a lovely continental breakfast, and we're about to hear the keynote address, all made possible by our generous sponsors, Dell, ExxonMobil, Genentech, and Intel. Their sponsorships also underscore the value that they place in promoting diversity in the workforce and their desire to reach a talented pool of candidates while supporting their current employees. So we thank them for that, for everything that they're doing. Kavitha Imani, Senior Director, Software Engineer IT with Dell. Welcome.
Thank you, Penny. Good morning. It is a pleasure to be in front of such a talented group of women engineers. So before we get started, I wanted to throw out some facts out there. 50% of this nation's population is made up of women. And you know how many of them hold jobs in the IT industry in STEM? It's 24%. And of the 24%, only 11% hold senior IT roles. There are 7 women who pursue their STEM degree, and 1 in 7 women still have a career in STEM. Now, you may be thinking that doesn't look so great, but the future is bright. By 2024, there are going to be 500,000 jobs that are available in STEM, and that is the opportunity for each and every one of you in this group and for your sisters and for your daughters. So with this theme for this year being Let's Break Boundaries, I wanted to start off with a personal story. And this dates back to 1945. It starts off with my mom. That was when she was born, in a very remote village in India. she gave me two choices. Either you can pursue medicine or engineering. So I said, I'm going to pick engineering because I, did not care for medicine too much. And I joined my first year in computer engineering. That was 26 years ago, and I'm sure I'm dating myself here. And the first year in engineering, we had to do something called carpentry and smithy. And I don't know how many of you actually relate to that. But that requires a lot of physical work, and you see, I'm quite short, and I wasn't that physically strong at that time. I like to think I'm much stronger now. And I was in a group where there were 200 guys and there were 20 girls, right? And in computer engineering, there were 30-some guys and 7 girls or so. And when we were doing this, there was a lot of teasing and bullying that was going on. And I was very emotional one day and went to a professor to complain about these guys that were teasing me. And he gave me advice that I have retained to this day and practiced. He said to me, are you going to figure out how to cope and how to move forward, or are you going to give in to what's going on? And from then till this, to work for, and Dell is very committed to the legacy of good, especially women in STEM education. Right now, I lead an organization of 700 people. 35% of that organization is made up of women, and over 40% of my leadership team is made up of women. And Dell has supported that. Dell has recently launched a career restart program in partnership with SWE and iRelaunch, and this enables women who have left the workforce to re-enter the workforce and pursue their STEM as well as non-STEM career ambitions. And as part of this program, just this past week, we have our first hire within Dell. Dell also provides funds, technology, and expertise to empower youth to pursue STEM initiatives globally. Dell has donated $50 million to STEM initiatives, 30,000 PCs to Ethiopian schools, and has also introduced this Power of One Mentor Connect program. And what this enables and encourages every technology individual to volunteer their time to talk to at least one child about what their job entails. So I want to leave you with
so much, Kavitha and Dell, once again. I really loved the integrating the breaking boundaries into the line there. Next, I would like to welcome to the podium DC Autan, Vice President of ExxonMobil Development Company with ExxonMobil.
Good morning. How is everybody this morning? Ready to break some boundaries? Yeah? Okay. This breaking boundaries really resonates with me. It's a theme that, as I reflect over my 38 years with ExxonMobil, I recognize the company has really allowed me to break boundaries. So I'm going to share just a few examples. 1980, I'm a chemical engineer, graduating from Georgia Tech. Woohoo! I show up in New Orleans, working, my job is to be a facilities engineer and support production platforms offshore. That means I have to go offshore and spend time, days at a time. Well, this is 1980. The offshore field workers, yeah, their welcome to me is pretty lukewarm or less. I'm the second woman to work for ExxonMobil offshore, and there's a couple of reasons for this. Facilities, for one thing, they don't have a place for women. They don't have a place for women to sleep. You have to kick a supervisor out of their room so you have a place to sleep. And you're interrupting their culture. Now there are these women out here. Do I have to talk differently? These are guys that live offshore for days and weeks at a time. So I was determined to be part of the team. And so I worked with them on a pet project that they hadn't been able to get done. It was an optimization project in the field. And it took us 9 months. But at the end of the 9 months, I'd funded it, we'd gotten it implemented, and all of a sudden they had all these new, they could reduce their cost and produce more. What more could you ask for? So they recognized that I just wasn't there because I was entitled. I was there because I could be an effective team member. So that made me feel really good. And those guys, I've worked with them and been connected with them most of my career, and I've helped them and they've helped me, really formed strong bonds. Another example of breaking boundaries, in 2003, one of our corporate vice presidents was talking to his 30-something-year-old daughter, and she was describing the glass ceiling that existed in the company that she worked for. So it made him think, well, I wonder if we have that problem here. So you wonder, huh? So his planner was a woman, Sarah Ortwine. She's now the president of one of our companies, so yeehaw. But she explained to him, she's also a working mom, she explained to him some of the issues that we had, and to his credit, he pulled together a workshop of women like me, that had been there for a while, and he talked to us about, why do you stay? What could we do different? And as a result of that workshop, he instituted flexibility policies for everybody within the company. And those continue today, and we keep building on them and making them better so that people can balance work and life and all the things that go on. But he also empowered those of us that were at that workshop to go out and make a difference within our sphere of influence. That really changed my mindset. Because before that, I'm a working mom. If I come to work and if I needed to go do something with my kids, I'd just leave my light on. This was before cell phones and GPS where they knew where you were. Leave my light on, leave the door open, go to my kids' school, do whatever I needed to do, and come back, and I was here all day. But then with his charge, it changed my mindset to, I need to be talking about why I need to do these things and why I need some flexibility and why I'm still doing my job. I mean, this isn't impacting my delivery, it's letting me live my life. So I give a lot of credit, shout out goes to Harry Longwell for letting those things happen and for helping me become an advocate for women. So my last story is set in Papua New Guinea, which is an island north of Australia. It's about the size of California and has about 6 to 7 million people, 800 languages, so very lots of highlands, lots of mountain. A unique role as the lead of this project to make a difference, and to make a difference for women in a country where women are not necessarily regarded as members of society. So we did a couple of things. We set up a women's network within the affiliate that I was working with to support both the expat women and the national women. We did some outreach programs, took STEM to schools for men and women, and we supported women entrepreneurs. We did a Global Women in Management program, a series of programs to help women entrepreneurs get better in their business skills. Because we recognize that women, when they're successful, they take that success back into the community, and it really lifts up the whole community. So just another example of where the company allowed me to break some boundaries. So I'm really proud to work for ExxonMobil. They've been very supportive, been breaking boundaries for 38 years. And they are supportive, ExxonMobil's supportive in that it's supportive of SWE. The last several years, we've given over $4 million to SWE. We sponsor things like the Invent It, Build It workshop on Saturday. So come out and see that. Support STEM for young girls. And we sponsor keynotes like this. So with no further ado, I'm going to turn it back to Penny Worthing, one of our ExxonMobil alumni. Yeehaw! And here we go. Let's go break some more boundaries. Have a great day.
Thank you, thank you. There is a soft spot in my heart for ExxonMobil. Thank you, DC, and thank you, ExxonMobil, for all of your support this year and for many, many years. Our third sponsor, Genentech, has been a longtime supporter of SWE as well, and for their remarks, we will play a brief video. So if you would please turn your attention to the screens on either side of the stage. Thank you.
The big breakthroughs start small. An idea becomes a hypothesis. It's tested. It fails. It's tweaked and tested again. Maybe this time, that idea will become a project, a trial, a treatment, or not.
Around to make Intel have full representation by 2020 of women and minorities. And as we went along, we started measuring. We do it through transparency, accountability, data. We get the men involved, and we have done it like a systematic things, including goals and measuring, hiring, retention, promotions, and things like that. And then, a year ago, we thought, why wait? Let's get it done in 2018. And so Intel has been a leader in all of this, and I want to give a shout out. We have a career fair. We have men and women from Intel over there, and I'd like you to stop by. We need all kinds of engineers, not just computer science, as I mentioned. We're breaking boundaries, and it is my personal hope that we all come together to create a new world. We need applied sciences, we need chemical engineers, material sciences, all kinds of people. I'm going to talk a couple of minutes, just real quick, about myself and my journey. I actually lived in Ohio when I was a kid and went back. And the standard... My dad was a researcher at Ohio State. And when I went back, I had to, they used to keep asking the questions. I think I grew up at the same time Kavita did. And actually, I was born in the same state. But when you go up, do you want to marry a doctor or an engineer is what they asked girls. And they used to ask boys, do you want to be a doctor or an engineer? And in my 5th grade brain, I decided it was about economic independence. And that's where, but I couldn't cut frogs. So that's why I did engineering. And then, Clemson, South Carolina, anybody? Was also an interesting thing. But then when I joined Intel in 1999, I never looked back. And today I lead a team of very highly technical people, a lot of PhDs, and a lot of folks that look, I have people who have anthropology majors, I have people who have, the team has people who have digital signal processing and business majors, and we all come together to try to create the future. And a huge percentage of it, like about 30 to 50% of the senior technical talent is female or minorities. So without much further ado, I wanted to say, it's my personal hope that we all check out the booth at Intel, come join us, let's create a journey, and as one of our founders, Robert Noyce, said, let's all go off and do something wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So thank you again to all of our sponsors for making this morning possible. It is now my pleasure to introduce Cindy Kent. Cindy is a widely admired healthcare executive with more than 25 years in the industry. Most recently, she was the president and general manager for 3M Infection Prevention Division, which is a over $1.6 billion business committed to keeping patients safe from healthcare-associated infections. Cindy holds a BS in Industrial Engineering from Northwestern University, as well as an MBA in Marketing and a Master of Divinity from Vanderbilt University. She's a well-respected leader. She's a corporate director for Best Buy, which is a Fortune 100 retail company. Cindy was recognized in April of this year by Lead 360 magazine as its Executive of the Year. And last year, Black Enterprise magazine ranked her as one of the top 100 most powerful women in business. Which is very cool. Other awards include being recognized as a woman of distinction by the Girl Scouts, being named a top 35 women leaders in healthcare by the Women's Healthcare Leadership Trust, and a recipient of the President's Award from the Information Technology Senior Management Forum for her exemplary achievement as in a STEM field. Cindy is also a Henry Crown Fellow with the Aspen Institute. So I could go on because she's quite accomplished, as you can see, but we are absolutely honored to have her here as our keynote speaker this morning. As a reminder, when we do get to the Q&A section of our talk, we will be taking questions via Twitter. So if you would like to ask a question, please submit it through Twitter using the hashtag AskSWE. We usually receive a lot of questions, so if you would like to submit one, do so early. Now, help me give a warm welcome to Cindy Kent.
Good morning. We're women. I know we could be louder than that. Good morning. That's more like it. Well, welcome to Minneapolis and the bold north of the Twin Cities. As a Minnesotan, I can welcome you here legitimately. Also, I have an apology. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that we're not able to offer you our greatest natural resource during your visit. I checked the weather report, there is no snow. But if you stay a few weeks, I'm sure we can find some for you. I also want to take this opportunity to give a thanks to Penny Wersing and to the Board of Directors for SWE, as well as the Program Advisory Committee for inviting me to speak. What a great honor to be here and to share some of my experiences with all of you. Also, we have to recognize the sponsors that we just heard from that made this possible. So Dell and Intel and Genentech, as well as ExxonMobil. How can I miss DC? Don't hold it against me. Of course, the sponsors. And also to my former employer, the great 3M, a phenomenal company. That's right, right here. A phenomenal company full of women scientists and engineers who make meaningful contributions to 3M's legacy of innovation each and every day. So I encourage all the students and everyone that's interested in a transition to make sure you spend time with the 3M booth. We've got over 100 people here to help and serve you and answer all your questions. So one of the things I always get asked is, Cindy, tell us something that's not on your resume. Tell us something that we can't go Google. So since it's just a few of us here, I'm convinced that we can keep this secret. So there's a book by Robert Fulghum that says, all I really need to know I learned in kindergarten. Well, for me, it wasn't quite kindergarten, but the same influencers that are priority generally at that age and stage in life were my parents. I was born in Tennessee to an 18-year-old mother, shout out for Tennessee, to an 18-year-old college or high school senior who dropped out of school when she found out she was pregnant with me, but made a decision to go back and also to pursue an accounting degree later in life. And my mother did something that was unheard of and extremely courageous for that time period of the late 60s in the newly desegregated South. She decided that she wasn't going to get married until she was good and ready to do so. And she married my father 5 years later when I was 5. But that instilled in me, as she continued to instill in me, great strength that you can make and live by your own decisions. My father was a 17-year-old high school junior, and immediately upon graduation enrolled in the military, into the Air Force, and he went to serve in the Vietnam War. 4 years later, when he returned, he was extremely militant, and he was insistent that his 5-year-old daughter, growing up in the newly desegregated South, would have a sense of identity and know who she was. And so rather than the Dr. Seuss stories and the fables that most children grow up in my day hearing as their bedtime stories, my father read me Native Son and also Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man, because he insisted that I have a sense of identity and know who I was. But the thing that both parents agreed upon, that they would not compromise, is that I would get a good education, and that would be my path out of poverty and into a better life. So when my high school guidance counselor, Miss Solomon, recommended this girl is good in math and science, she has to be an engineer, much like Kavitha, I had one choice. What kind of engineer do you want to be? It wasn't if, it was which one. And so you can imagine that 4 years later, I became the first generation college graduate in my family. And I think so. I think so. Thank you. And you can only imagine how emotional it was this past August when I visited that same high school that formed the foundation for me becoming a woman in STEM and pursuing an engineering degree, when they dedicated their new science wing in my name and in my honor. Thank you. So what I would like to spend a few moments, that's the stuff, you can all keep a secret, right? Things that aren't on the bio. The things I want to talk to you today briefly about are my 4 key lessons that help me advance in my career, break through boundaries, and I hope, regardless of whether you're in school, early in your career, or advanced in your career, that some of these 4 key lessons will be things that will help you on your journey. So with that, anybody that knows me knows I will always start with the why. I love Simon Sinek. I am a big fan of Know Your Why. And his quote is, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And for me, you don't have to have just one single why. It can be a series of why. And so I have 2 that really anchor me in terms of my raison d'etre. And the first is why healthcare. I was a staff engineer early in my career, straight out of college, and I used to design research laboratories for the quality department. And I remember seeing all these powders come in, and I went to my first good manufacturing GMP training, and I remember the trainer saying, you look at these powders, and they don't look like too much, but by the time we put the reagents in them, that these will be the active ingredients that will form medicines that will save lives, not just any lives, but lives of your loved ones. And God forbid, maybe even your own life. And at that moment, I was hooked. Healthcare became my thing. So that's my healthcare why. My life why. which hangs on a sign on the back of my closet door so that every time that I get dressed, I'm always reminded. My personal vision statement is use it all. Use it all. Don't let a day go by that you don't play all in. Don't come to the end of your time on the earth and leave talent and potential untapped. My vision statement is to use my platform and role as a senior healthcare executive to be a blessing to my family, to my community, and to my community of faith. Those are my whys. And the question is, what's your own? I believe that our why is informed by our passions. And Oprah says it this way. You gotta quote Oprah, right? It's got to. Every good keynote has an Oprah quote. Is you've got to follow your passion. Figure out what you love and then have the courage to go pursue it. That passion will drive you even if it's something that you've never seen modeled before. I had never seen a black woman in the Hallett Halls of Corporation when I was growing up. I had never even seen a college graduate in my family. But the encouragement, as Kavitha stated, of her mother and family and those around me made sure that that passion was not wasted. The second key lesson, being willing to ask for help, and even more importantly, to accept it when it's offered. I got a spoiler alert for you. Nobody, and I mean nobody, no matter if you broke the curve on your exam, no matter if you scored, the top score on your GMAT, nobody advances alone. Nobody makes it by themselves. And it's women sometimes, which is a real broadly researched topic. As women, we think all we have to do is work harder. If we just work harder, somebody's gonna recognize our talent and give us the recognition and the promotions that we deserve. But the reality is that working hard is necessary, but it's not sufficient. And if I think back in my own career of people who really made a difference, and I know that mentoring is a key theme and program thrust for SWE, and it is important, but as you're gonna see on subsequent slides, there's another role that is also critical, and that is the role of a sponsor, right? I'll get into the definitions in just a moment. And although I appreciate every pivotal moment that my sponsors did to advance and accelerate my career, the reality is, what I'm sad about is that every single one of those sponsors, not my mentors, but my sponsors, are men. Every single one. And I have made it my personal mission and my personal business, as I have, to sponsor and advance and accelerate the development of women in whatever organization I find myself in. And I want those that were sponsored, proteges that were sponsored by me, to have a different outcome, to be able to say, yeah, I had sponsors, and one of them was a woman named Cindy Kent. And so I would like to challenge you today with another type of boundary. Are you willing to use your resources, your organizational influence, to advance and accelerate the advancement of women in your respective organizations? So what are these roles? Everybody needs a good kitchen cabinet, right? On the personal front, I got my girlfriends I cry to when things aren't going so good. And then I've got my professional board of advisors. But there are three key roles in development. First of all, on the right-hand side of the screen, you will notice the Johari's window. And the goal of any members of your advisory group is to help you identify blind spots, Because blind spots are the things that others are aware, that you may not be aware, that ultimately can become a form of sabotage to your goals and advancements in your career. And so the goal of all of these roles is to help you overcome the boundaries and break through them and see and identify those blind spots by being coachable, which is receptive to the feedback when you ask for and receive help. What are advisors? Advisors are people that are more acute. It is more a transactional relationship. Can you tell me how to apply this formula to this material? I'm having problems with this torque value. Can you talk to me about working through it? I'm filing this patent in this product. Would you look over my submission before it's submitted to give me feedback, right? It's acute. It doesn't necessarily represent a long-term relationship. Mentors, absolutely critical. But mentors talk to you about you, right? You go, you have a problem, and unless you give them permission, they don't share what you've told them outside of the conversation with you. But those sponsors, those critical sponsors are individuals who leverage their organizational, their personal, or their social power and capital on your behalf. They've got a seat at the table, and they're wearing your t-shirt when they get there. So I want you to think about, who's wearing your t-shirt? Who's the person that when the conversation is going awry and says, wait a minute, you're playing old tapes? Wait a minute, have you seen that project that Susie completed? She absolutely knocked it out of the park. I remember when Diane was leading this team of 700 and she endeared great followership. Who is the person that's willing to stand up to make sure all your capabilities and your talent is represented at those year-end reviews and also at the advancement organizational meetings? If you're not sure who that is, I would encourage you that you've got a homework assignment. Fair enough? Okay. So, I'm going to go to the podium a little bit now. Here's one of the things that is disconcerting but real. So I wanted to take a minute to acknowledge it. In the podcast that Penny and I did right before, the pre-podcast before the conference, WE18, I talked about the 2 degrees of separation and the 2 degrees of difference. And what I meant by that was in reference to this research. And what it is the more different you are, whatever line of difference that is, whether it's gender or ethnic and racial or any other difference, the more different that an individual is from those in power, the harder they're going to have to work to find common ground and to build trust, which is the basis of any relationship and career, is trust. However, in this 2014 study by Catalyst, they reported that only 58% of women who were racially or ethnically different than those in power had sponsors or mentors in the senior ranks, those that can pull them up, as compared to 71% of women that were racially or ethnically like those in senior leadership. Moreover, the study goes on to say, regardless of race or gender, or regardless of race or ethnicity, women are much more likely than men when they do not feel supported to downsize their aspirations. We let the chatter continue to play in our minds. You don't have what it takes. You're not good enough. Be okay with being a senior manager. A director's not so bad. You get stock options, when really you could do more. And it's not that everybody seeks to rise to the pinnacle of the organization, but for those that do, don't downplay your own ambitions and aspirations because of the difference. And when you add ethnicity on top of that, it accelerates that statistic. We hear a lot about authenticity. We hear about it all the time. And I'd like to believe that that is one of the traits that is used to describe me most often, is authenticity. So what is it? We talk about it, we think we know it when we see it, but what is authenticity? Authenticity is being consistent over time. People get a sense that they know you, that they can relate to you. They know what to expect, how you think. They may not agree, but they know what to expect from you. And just like these napkins, when we start to compromise ourselves, it doesn't happen overnight. It starts with one decision at a time. Sure, I can take that extra project and work all night despite the fact it was my wedding anniversary and we had been planning a dinner. No problem. Of course, I can stay late for that meeting and forget the fact that it was the night of my daughter's first soccer game. Yep, I can get up at 6 a.m. and take that call while I'm on vacation. I start to wear blue suits and black suits and gray suits because somebody told me that this bright red suit was way too bright for that organization. And at the risk of being too opinionated, I silence myself and I sit in meetings without saying too much. And before you know it, you're only an image of who you used to be and who you knew yourself to be. And I don't want that to happen to any more women. So I recall finding myself in that situation. And I remember talking to my executive coach, and I said, Catherine, I feel like I'm in a box and I'm suffocating and somebody's sucking all the air out because I keep giving up parts of myself and I don't recognize myself anymore. And she says, well, what if you didn't do that anymore? We pay executive coaches a lot of money to tell us what we should know. No harm. I hope I don't make enemies with any executive coaches in the room. They're really great. And she recommended, and I'm going to recommend to you, there is a video on YouTube by Bob Newhart called Stop It. You've got to see it. But she says, what if you didn't do it? What if you showed up in all of with your full self each and every day? And I said, okay, I'm going to try that. And the next week she says, how did it go? I'm like, I'm still here. I didn't get fired. I feel free. But I was absolutely horrified that I needed permission, that I needed someone to tell me to be me. So the truth is that nobody, and I mean nobody, can beat you being you. You are the best you this universe has ever seen. And just like Beyonce says, so you gotta have a little Oprah, you gotta have a little Beyonce. Flaws and all, right? And one of the greatest gifts that my parents gave me was the gift of my own voice. And this came in the form of a family forum. Every Friday night after they got married, from the time I was 5 to the time I was 12, when I just couldn't take it anymore, we would have dinner, we would do a family activity, and we would meet in a small den in our small house in East Nashville, Tennessee. And everyone would go around in a circle and had to share something that they wanted changed about the family. And even at that early age, whether it was, I don't want to eat broccoli, that'd be okay. Or I thought that I should get to stay up later than 8:30 because there was a show that I wanted to come on, I wanted to watch. And when I couldn't wake up the next morning, they would say, so what's the consequence of that decision? And I learned about decisions and consequences at a young age. But most importantly, the lesson that the Family Forum taught me that carried with me into my career is that I deserved to be heard. And what I wish for each of you is that not only would you have a voice and use your voice, but that you get to the point where you appreciate your voice, and at some point, you even begin to celebrate your own opinions. The last lesson is own your seat at the table. So, gotta throw in a little Hamilton too. One of my life highlights was seeing Hamilton in New York with the original cast. And there is, you gotta give it up for Lin-Manuel Miranda. Yeah. But if you have not seen it yet, I won't spoil all of it, but there is a line that says, I've gotta be in the room where it happens. And not only do I want to be in the room where it happens, I want to be at the table where the decision's in the room where it happens. And I realized, like I said, that not everybody wants to rise to that CEO position. But what I do hope that you want for yourselves is to be in an organization that recognizes and honors your opinions, your intelligence, your skills, and celebrates those, that you are heard, regardless of level in the organization. And strangely enough, one of the greatest lessons that I ever learned about not everybody wants to be part of owning a seat at the table is an experience I had with an earlier employer. And I was tasked by the CEO to relaunch the Women's Network. And he had a very simple goal for me. He said, I want you to improve the women in the pipeline that are promotable, and I want you to ensure that we have more women vice presidents. Not an easy task, but that was the goal of the Women's Network. And so as I began, my first task was to create a steering committee. And I went out to go talk to women who had great respect in the organization and followership to ask them to come on board and partner with me to be part of the steering committee. And surprisingly, more than a few said that they didn't want to be a part of it because they didn't want to look like they needed a special provision or some kind of excuse or a pass. And I'll tell you this, it doesn't matter what brings you to that table. Once you get there, own your seat. Because I will tell you, regardless of the reason that you're invited to the table, no company will tolerate mediocrity, ever. The board won't let them, investors won't let them, and general shareholders won't allow it. So when you get invited to the room, and once you get a seat at the table, absolutely, positively, own it. Can you make me that promise? You're gonna own your seat at the table? You're gonna use your voice? I love Fearless Girl. This is just like my favorite image. You might, if you're aware, Fearless Girl sits in the middle of Wall Street, was such a topic of controversy over the last year and a half that she's been in place. But I love Fearless Girls, and I love the topic of fearlessness. Because what you may not be aware of is fearlessness is not the absence of fear. Fearlessness is having little butterflies in your belly, having trepidation, having your hands sweat before you get before 10,000 people to talk in a room of engineers. But fearlessness is doing it anyway. Brené Brown says, courage, comfort, is the cost of courage. The only thing it costs you is the willingness to be a little bit uncomfortable. So what if people don't listen to you in meetings? Speak up anyway. So what if people tell you that your moonshot goals and your big dreams for your business line, wanting to restructure your manufacturing process and optimize it, is a moonshot, and we've never done it that way before? Keep dreaming big anyway. Because unless we're willing to be fearless, we really won't conquer and break through the boundaries that are possible. And I leave you with this before Penny and I have some time together. It's my favorite quote from Marianne Williamson. Our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear, ladies and a few gentlemen, is that we're powerful beyond measure. It is our light and not our darkness that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? And I ask you, who are you not to be? Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about playing small so that others around you won't feel insecure. And as you let your own light shine, you unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. And as you are liberated from your own fear, your very presence will liberate others. So take advantage of the conference. Go meet lots of people. It is a safe space, an encouraging space for you and us to break boundaries together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you, Cindy. That was incredible.
Thank you
It is
so much.
so great. I don't even know where to start. I do have to say your one comment about use it all. I love that. And it's in your closet.
Yes, in my closet every day. Got to see it.
Yes, I think there are days when I feel like I use it all, but probably for the wrong reasons. I need to work on it. So we do have a few questions that came in through Twitter. First of all, can you tell us how your graduate degree have a range of degrees?
Yeah, I do. Probably the biggest span of degrees, and that comes up a lot. So, of course, the engineering, the critical thinking, and I apologize when I heard one of the quotes that only 1 in 7 women stay in STEM to get degrees, and I felt like so guilty, so a little shamed that I was one of the ones that I started in engineering, designing research labs, but the good news is that a technical degree allows you to pivot, because no matter what you do, and I've always worked in deeply scientific organizations and technical organizations, that the critical thinking skills that the engineering degree provides really supports that. And of course, to supplement that with the marketing degree or the business degree helped me as I continue to advance. And I would like to believe that my divinity degree also informs how I approach leadership, which is 360 whole person leadership, that it's not just about me being the boss and employees and project getting done, that I really want to be the leader that people would be willing to go through mountains and over mountains for, because they know I care about them.
Yeah, and that is so important. And when I speak with young girls about going into engineering, one of the things that I encourage them is it gives you a thought process, a problem-solving process, so you can take that wherever you go. Yeah, fabulous. Thank you. So this is a little maybe unique to the Society of Women Engineers, but someone loves your suit and wants to know where you got it.
Okay, y'all have to tell her, and I hope that everybody calls afterwards. So this suit is Nina McLemore. I am in an organization with Nina, the C200, which is an organization of business leaders, essentially. And I called her, and I'm embarrassed that I waited so late, but I called on Monday, and I'm like, I need a suit for SWE. And so it arrived on my doorstep at 8 o'clock last night. I'm so glad that it fits, because we would have had a problem. I would have been in black otherwise. And she actually said, I am so honored, because they're in a conference somewhere else right now, so I missed that conference to be here. And Nina was so honored that I am wearing the suit for SWE. And so if anybody else wants this suit, please call her. She would be delighted. And tell her I said you can get my 20% discount.
Deal.
Yeah, actually, I think they just make a donation of 20% to organizations, but still.
Which is fabulous.
Yeah, which is fabulous. It's shopping with purpose, so you don't feel so bad.
Yeah, well, thank you. And you rock it.
Thank you.
So, there are a couple of questions here that are similar about advice that you would give to moms with young girls or engineering moms of young girls in the early years to help them, give them an identity?
Yes. So I'm a big fan of the Family Forum, letting them talk, listening to them, actually making time to hear. And I know in the craziness of everything that's happening in our lives, it's sometimes hard. Our families are generally the ones that get the brunt of our career pursuits, unfortunately. And I don't know if you saw or heard Indra Nooyi, who stepped down as the CEO of Pepsi, but she was talking about that's her one regret of the compromises that she made and not spending enough time with family or giving up family time. And I am a mom of 2 stepchildren, and our daughter in particular, when she was 5, I would watch her, and she would sit in my office, and I'd be like, what are you doing? She says, I'm playing work, right? And she would be pointing to people, and it really made me reflect, like, do I do that? You know? So I was like, never use a finger, never use a finger. And so, but just hearing about pursuing interests. My dad played a key role in fueling my imagination. Back in the day, pre-TSA, he would take me to the airport and we would pick out what cities, you know, that we would imagine to go to. And so we would go to that gate based on the city of my choice, and we would watch the people lining up, queuing up, and then we would tell stories. Oh, that's a grandma, and she's gonna go visit her grandkids, and that guy has a business trip, and that lady, you know, was whatever the story was. But it really created this imagination for me, and that was something we did pretty often. And so if nothing else is exposure, just exposing her to as many things that she has a bountiful buffet to choose from when the time comes.
Fabulous. So I know there are some couples here or groups here that are engineering moms and engineering daughters. I know of at least one in the audience.
Wow.
Are there others in the audience? Yes? Yeah. How fabulous. Yeah.
Congratulations, that is awesome.
Yeah. My daughter decided to become an attorney, but I'm okay with that.
We'll need that one day.
Yes. Let's see, and I think you might have covered this in a couple of places, but the question is, do you have a mantra that helps you get through the tough days at work?
Yes, I've got a mentor that always tells me to pick a song. Like, Cindy, you've got to have your song ready to go. And I have never said this on a public stage, but it's just us few, and it's a secret. My song, and then I'll go to my daily mantras. I'll end it with that if we're at time. My song is Shaka Khan's I'm Every Woman. I just started singing it around the house.
Yes.
And then my mantra was encouraged when I was reading a book by Deepak Chopra a few years ago, just to be intentional. So I call them my 4 intentions. And my first intention is and I said it today, I will be a point of light and hope in the world. Today, I will be my best self, body, mind, and spirit. Today, I will use my experience, life, and resources to positively and radically transform the lives of others through every interaction, regardless of how small that interaction may be. Today, I will leave people, places, and things better than I find them. And today, I will be a magnet for positive, productive people who are changing the world, for indeed, I am one of them also.
That is so cool. I can't see the timer from here, so if we have time for one more question, let me know. Otherwise, I will wrap it up. I can't see.
I can't
no?
either.
I can't.
I'm going to cheat.
Oh,
2 minutes.
We have 2 minutes. Oh, we have 2 minutes. Okay. Let's see. Well, I guess if there are people in the audience that are thinking, no, I don't want to go there. Well, you are fabulous at speaking.
You're very.
How would you like to end it?
Well, there. Monkey over here now. So, I mean, monkey on the back. There's a video on YouTube about that too, taking other monkeys. Sorry. So I guess I'll use the quote that I've used throughout, and that is the importance of having and exercising the voice. And being fearless, that, you know, people look at me and I pointed to the fact of being nervous, because I really am. Because some people assume because you wear a bright red suit and stand on the stage that you must be absolutely fearless. It is not something done and over with. You conquer it every single day, right? Every single decision of pushing through and trying anyway. And I will tell a brief story that I had an aha moment. I was vacationing with girlfriends from high school. And at our last night, one of them, we had this exercise where we said, we've all gone our separate ways and we've all made other friends, but we're our oldest network together. How would you describe each of us to friends that didn't grow up with us? And when they came to me, they said, oh, you're easy. You're our fearless executive friend. And I was shocked, right? These are my ride or die girlfriends. They have been with me when I cried through boyfriends, when I cried through breakups, when I cried through professional disappointments, whatever. They were there and they saw me at my most vulnerable moments. And yet, they can describe me as fearless. And that was the first time that it started an aha moment of saying, maybe fearlessness has nothing to do with the absence of vulnerabilities. Maybe I can be fearless and vulnerable at the same time and hold those two sacred collectively. And it is true. And that has given me a great sense of peace.
Yes. And I think it makes you very approachable and makes it easier for people to relate to you and see that they can perhaps follow in your footsteps.
I certainly hope so. That would be my hope and dream.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I have a few final words to say here.
I'll stay
I am
here.
going- yes,
Or
if you'd like to stay.
That way.
Relax.
Well, actually, I'm going to exit stage left.
are
I'll
you?
go over there.
Okay, well, here, hug.
Okay.
Wow. Well, I hope you were inspired. She is a fabulous, fabulous woman. Cindy, thank you again for sharing your words and your insights on your experience as a leader who has certainly found a way to balance a very busy and inspiring life and really break boundaries. So we appreciate all of you joining us here today. We appreciate Cindy.